Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate you hanging out here. What name and pronouns do you prefer to go by?
I'm Nethyr and I go by they, them pronouns.
Awesome. Okay. Could you tell me a bit about your VTuber model or persona?
So this current PNG model that you see is my upcoming third model. I first started out with 3D models, but I wanted a 2D one, and this specific one reflects my heritage as a Filipino American and my gender fluidity and being non-binary. So there's a few hidden stuff with this upcoming model, and it's currently being rigged, but a lot of the design is based on my interests in technology and science, but also a lot of history and psychology, hence the lab coat and stuff. The gold detailing is actually very much connected with my Filipino heritage because in pre-colonial times, gold was a really big export of the Philippines at the time. So very symbolic. And my whole concept is that I'm an X-Final boss homunculus. So not a lot of the lore has been shared, but I think I can share it a little discreetly here. But the main lore is that I'm a homunculus that was created by royal alchemists, and I was raised to basically be a royal homunculus and serve royalty. But due to some unfortunate events, I became the final boss of the game to go against the people that have hurt homunculi and other creatures. So it's basically like kind of like a Frankenstein kind of story in a way, which makes sense. And yeah, that's like the main gist, but I made sure that my design incorporates colors of the gender fluid and the non-binary flag a bit, and also have an androgynous appearance that's leaning more towards masculine, just to really express more of myself as a person and as like what I feel most comfortable with, because this design is mainly to fulfill a lot of my own personal needs and like things I like for myself, and it's like representative of the kind of future I want for myself, like where I can freely express myself and talk about things that are important to me, and I really wanted to showcase it through this.
That's really cool. Man, you're more detailed than I am with my own stuff. I love that. That's really awesome.
I like put in work for this model for like more than 2 years or so, and it's finally coming into fruition. So when my re-debut happens, it's gonna have a lot of historical references that are gonna be a little bit dark, but it's really important for me because the idea of a third gender has existed in pre-colonial times and has been erased due to imperialism and colonialism. That's why it's really important for me to show my androgyny, my idea of embracing the masculine and the feminine energies, and showcase it through my VTubing, because in a way this is like reclaiming my history.
How do you identify?
So my main identifier is gender fluid. Like I feel that I am very flexible with my feminine and masculine energies. I also consider myself non-binary. Mainly because of that flexibility, but also like sometimes I don't consider myself within pre-established gender roles of being a man or being a woman. I don't feel like it's the most appropriate label for me. I feel like as I'm getting older and as I'm getting to know my heritage and reclaiming my history and my heritage, I find myself identifying more with the Babaylan, which are specifically shamans who have very strong feminine energy but also embrace masculinity, and they are like the main people that have shown their gender in ways that are not traditionally presented as today, and that's why I find myself identifying with those people, but I'm still trying to figure out and understand that. So that's why I mainly go with gender fluidity and non-binary, just to keep it simple. But as I'm getting to know myself more, I find myself identifying with those people, and I hope I can learn more.
So would you say that history has had a pretty big impact on how you choose to present yourself, how you choose to present your character. What is that how it kind of goes basically?
Yeah, like a lot of my VTubing journey has also been helping me better express myself and has encouraged me to really look into my past and really like understand it a whole lot more, because a lot of the history has been erased and hasn't been spoken of, and I would have to look into literal research texts and literature from many experts to better understand it, and I can't really like access that easily. So that's why it takes a while, and that's why my journey is still ongoing, and mainly why I stick with gender fluid and non-binary at this time.
Oh, no, I understand that. I feel like even for myself, gender has been like a non-stop journey and coming to understand myself. So I completely understand where you're coming from with that. And I think it's really interesting that history has had such a huge impact on the way that you present yourself as well. That's really cool.
Yeah, and I really want to emphasize that because there's a trend of saying that, oh, transgender people only exist because it's a trend. But no, it's just been erased multiple times throughout history, and it's something that needs to be acknowledged. It's not just like something that's just happening today. It's been happening throughout history, and it's just people are choosing not to acknowledge it.
Yes, exactly. That's very much how I feel about my own gender fluidity. So I really do get it. I do. That's really cool, though, that, you're my first interview. So it's interesting that the first person I'm talking with is somebody who holds such similar opinions on how, like, on the fact, well, it's not even really opinion, it's a fact that history has shown that gender fluidity has always been a thing and isn't just some trend. So it's nice to have such introspection from somebody for my first interview here. So, so then in that case, what drew you to VTubing, and do you find it rewarding?
So the first part of the question, what drew me to VTubing? Well, I've always grown up with anime, and it's been like what made me happy as a person. And then my first discovery of VTubing was Keys no Eye, hence why I wanted to go with an AI concept. So that's the other part of my lore that I did not mention, that I'm an ex-final boss that escaped from their game and became sentient to find like a better life for myself besides, being a final boss. So I saw VTubing as a way to figure out myself in a safe place with like-minded people that also like anime, but also really love the art form and just want to express themselves. Like, I always saw VTubing as more of an art form rather than like a commercial thing, which is why I just really like the idea of focusing on lore and story, and that's what attracted me to VTubing, where you can tell stories in ways that are not possible with video games, with literature, with books overall. Like, I saw VTubing as a new medium to express yourself and your story. Like, it's a lot of theater, and I really like theater personally, like musicals and stuff. It's my jam. So I thought VTubing would be a really good place for that. But it's also, at this current like state, it's very commercial and it's very focused on being an idol, when I don't necessarily identify myself with being an idol, when I see myself as someone that wants to better express themselves with things that have made me happy, which is like anime, video games, stuff like that.
Okay, alrighty. And so, I guess despite all that, do you find it rewarding to have decided to be a VTuber?
So I have a lot of opinions on that, especially. so for a little background on me, I've been VTubing since 2021, and before HoloMit came to be. So I had my first like trial run with a Vroid in 2020, and then HoloMit debuted, and I was like, I really like how detailed the stories are, and that motivated me more to like, oh, I want to do the storytelling aspect of VTubing. I really want to see what I can do with that. But then I got more involved in the VTubing space, and there are both good and bad actors in this space, and it is very discouraging to see people that are notoriously bad actors really get rewarded for their behavior in this space more so than IRL streamers and voice actors and cosplayers. And it's very frustrating to see, but the most rewarding part is being able to meet people that want to focus on the creative aspects of VTubing and really want to focus on those projects and really support each other and finding like-minded people, because this VTubing experience has really helped me meet more people like me. Like, this is the most trans people I have ever met in my life, and that's the main rewarding part of it. It's just meeting more people like me.
Oh, absolutely. And actually, so that actually brings me to my next question, because it has quite a bit to do with what you were mentioning. I know you've mentioned the issues with the industry currently being focused on like idol culture rather than, the creative side of things. And so could you share some of the highs and lows of your journey?
Ooh, highs and lows. I'm trying to define what do I mean by highs and lows. I think my main highs are just meeting really cool people. Like, my second model that I got made was by Okuda, who also made a lot of the Vichiban models, like Buff Pup and such. And meeting Okuda, who's also a trans person like myself, it really showed me that, oh, there are some really cool artsy people that can make really awesome art pieces and really showcasing that, and people who want to support me as well. Like, meeting people like Okuda and people that are they're trans and also like artsy people and really want to go into the creative spaces was very reassuring for me as a person, because it meant that I'm not alone with my thought process and that I can meet people like me. Like, that's the main thing I've always wanted, was just finding a community like that and making friends that have similar beliefs. It was also my first experience actively streaming. I've never streamed before VTubing. I've never made content before VTubing. So I have this really fresh perspective of never being a content creator beforehand. I just went into it because I didn't want to show my face. I felt very uncomfortable about the idea of showing my face, especially with how AI is able to create certain things with just your face, and back actors in the creator space, because for context, I'm more feminine appearing compared to other people, and because of that I would be taken advantage of because I'm more feminine appearing. Like, even my voice, it is on the feminine side. I understand that, but I didn't want it to be taken advantage of as my physical self when I just want to express myself as a person, and I want people to focus on that more. That's why VTubing was such a big benefit, and that's why even becoming a VTuber was a huge highlight for me, because it really made me feel more comfortable with myself as a person. So my main highs are just being able to find community and also acceptance of myself. And the third high, I would say, would be being able to exercise my voice more, because before this, I was selectively mute. I had a lisp. I had trouble communicating, and that got in the way of making that community, making connections. But VTubing has helped me better express myself more and exercise talking as well. So those are my three main highlights. As for lows, it's just meeting bad actors in this space and having negative experiences with those.
That's very understandable. Trust me, I've definitely encountered such situations, so I get it, I really do. How did you ensure that your model represented you?
Ooh, lots of research, lots of looking into history, and also understanding myself as a person was very key on figuring out what kind of model I wanted, because the number one thing I wanted to prevent was a rebrand. I have seen so many VTubers rebrand multiple times, and I just kind of go in pain at the amount of money lost through that, and the loss of that work that the artist has put in. For me, I highly respect artists, and I don't like the idea of removing a brand after an artist has worked so hard on it. So, with that in mind, I made sure to really know myself, know what kind of content I want to make, which is mainly talking about video games, talking about psychology, talking about history, talking about like game design. Those are the things I'm into, and it's a little bit more serious. So, with that in mind, I actually chose a semi realistic art style for my model because I know that I myself am a serious person at heart and I like to dive really deep into topics. So, I felt that having a semi realistic anime esque model is more representative of me as a person rather than like something cutesy, something bara, or like really pertaining to those very specific tropes, and just be someone that is like a more fantastical version of me, but enhancing the mythologies from the Philippines and the histories regarding like Philippines and America. I also am very critical about adopting design elements from other cultures because I see a lot of Japanese inspired designs and they may not fully know the culture and the history behind them, and you have to be very careful about how you implement them.
Yeah, no, that's completely understandable. It seems like you do your research quite often before you delve into this kind of project, and I can really respect that. Uh, I thankfully it's been 2 years for me personally. I have yet to rebrand, but I get the whole thing about the rebranding. I see a lot of people, even friends around me, completely rebranding, and I feel that on, worrying like, oh, well, what about the people who created, the design, people who worked hard to make that character happen in the first place, and to see it all go, it can be quite heartbreaking. So I get that why that would have been a concern for you when you first started out as well.
And I honestly don't like the idea of just starting over because I like consistency a lot as a person. And if there's like a sudden change, I know my viewers would not like that. Like one of my goals is just to make a community of people of just like a long-standing community. I want it to be one that encourages growth but also like consistency. If there's too much change, I feel like that deters people away. Like I've noticed with rebrands that after you completely rebrand, you lose your audience because what attracted them initially is gone. So it's also a business standpoint for me too.
No, I get that. And then, so I guess the last question I have for you here, well, second to last, I suppose.
Okay.
Has VTubing helped you discover more about yourself?
Definitely yes. Like it made me realize what kind of people I got along with, why I didn't get along with certain people, and just really give me a place to be creative outside of work. Because my work, I work 40 hours a week, having a full-time job tires you out. And you kind of want to be like, okay, I'm stuck in this capitalist mindset for quite a bit. So what can I do to relax? What can I do to like express myself as a person? Well, I could like just go out and party, but that's not my thing. I could go out and read books, but I would be alone. Besides book clubs, but I wanted something that's kind of like something my age group would do, but also just something new and different that pertained to my interests, and that's how my interest in VTubing came to be.
Okay. And so then the very last thing, I suppose, is there anything else that you want people to know about what it's like being a transgender VTuber?
That is a hard-hitting question because I could say a lot of things, but even if I give advice to someone, it doesn't properly apply to their situation. But the main thing about VTubing is that if you want to enjoy it, you have to put in the effort to make it enjoyable. You have to pick the right people to be with. Otherwise, your time in VTubing can be short. Really be aware of the boundaries you want to put in place. Choose the right people. Like there is a big crowd of people that are not exactly LGBT friendly. Really find those right people, and it makes VTubing a lot more enjoyable as you express yourself. I'm someone that rather prefer if people protect their peace rather than like try to be mainstream, honestly. Because like the mainstream route, after seeing what a lot of corporate VTubers have gone through, it's not for everybody. So just focus on what you can control and what you enjoy, and that's good enough, honestly.
That was very, very well put. And I actually, that's me thinking about a lot of things in VTubing that I guess I didn't really consider before. I mean, it's things that I certainly have recognized, but, you know, through the past 2 years that I've been VTubing, it's been kind of just like blowing through, you know, like, oh, you know, that happened. Well, that guy is, you know, that person over there, they're not that nice. I'll just avoid them. And so to hear your perspective, you know, having been VTubing since 2021, you said, correct?
Yes.
That is a long, long time, especially now looking at being 2024. I can only imagine the amount of experiences that you've been through, both good and bad. And I really, really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me and share your experiences, whether they're good or bad. And I know maybe not every memory is sunshine and rainbows, but the fact that you know, came out and talked about it means a lot. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm glad that you gave me the opportunity to talk about these things and just sharing them, because I think it's really important that various community members just talk about their experiences, because a lot of them are just hidden away and just focused on being the trendiest and flashiest out there. I don't think a lot of VTubers have processed what exactly they've gone through, and a lot of the things we've gone through is similar to what IRL streamers have gone to. And we need to process like those many events that happen each year and figure out your stance and your views and what is your boundaries with those.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Abso-fucking-lutely. Excuse my French.
You're fine.
No, I really do get it. I think, you know, boundaries are one of those things people often don't really think about when they go into it. They're very focused on, you know, just making friends or having fun or making money. And it's very, very easy to neglect the problems that do happen in the community. And I can even say as myself, you know, I didn't initially recognize it. I thought it was just a couple bad actors. And I very quickly realized over a few months that it is quite bad, and that you really do have to, you know, pick and choose who you give your time to, because there are so many people and so many bad actors that you can't waste your time, you know, spending, you know, emotions and effort on people who didn't give a crap in the first place, you know?
So for me, spending time with the people that I felt like are similar to me and also my audience are what matters to me the most. I'd rather just focus on what can I give to them instead of the bad actors in the space. I would only call out bad actors if, one, I've known them, or two, like, hey, I want to provide education on this issue. How do you spot cycle of abuse? How do you spot, how do you take care of yourself? I'd rather focus on an educational part of it, but I don't want to be directly involved with like the many things on formerly Twitter.
Understandable. So is there anything else that you wanted to make sure that people knew? Anything you wanted to say before we end the interview?
Honestly, like, oh yeah, a big thing about VTubing, you do not need a ton of money to start it. There are literally free resources everywhere. Start with that and see if you'd like it. Then invest in VTubing.
Agreed there. Absolutely agreed. I mean, I started out free myself and only recently got a bunch of stuff for my setup, so...
Yeah, and congrats on the debut, by the way.
Thank you. It was chaotic.
I bet, yeah.
Oh yeah, but definitely rewarding, you know. 2 years into VTubing, deciding to do a debut, then it was much more rewarding to have it that way. So,